Here is a number that should stop every man over 50 in his tracks. In large-scale studies of long-term couples, when women were asked what separated genuinely satisfying intimacy from forgettable encounters, 87% pointed to one specific behavior. Not height, not income, not physical stamina. One behavior, and men who possessed it were described with words like intoxicating, safe, and impossible to replace. But here is the part that will make you rethink every assumption you have ever held about what happens behind closed doors. The men who had this trait were not the youngest. They were not the most athletic. They were consistently the oldest. And they were not doing more. They were doing less. Much less, but with a precision that younger men simply have not lived long enough to understand. If you are a man over 50 and you have ever felt like the modern landscape is designed to make you feel expired, stay with me. Because what I'm about to share doesn't just level the playing field, it tilts it entirely in your favor. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus came to see me at 61. He had rebuilt his life after divorce. New condo, new wardrobe, even a new posture. He was dating a woman named Elena, 55. Brilliant, funny, and exactly the kind of partner he thought he had lost his chance at finding. But 3 months in, Elena started pulling away. Not dramatically, just quietly. Less eye contact in the morning, less initiation at night, that creeping silence that tells you something is wrong before anyone says a word. Marcus did what most men do. He assumed the problem was mechanical. He researched supplements. He bought equipment. He treated intimacy like a home improvement project. And when he finally asked Elena what was missing, her answer confused him. She said, "I just never feel like you are actually with me. It feels like you are always trying to get somewhere." That phrase, trying to get somewhere, I've heard it in my practice more times than I can count. And if you're honest, you've probably been that man at some point, not because you're selfish, but because everything in male socialization teaches that intimacy is a destination, a finish line, a proof of performance. And nothing could be further from what the female nervous system actually requires. Let me explain what is happening under the hood, because this is where it gets fascinating. For decades, medicine taught a female arousal model that was essentially a photocopy of the male model. Desire first, then arousal, then climax. Linear, efficient, predictable. But Dr. Rosemary Basson, a clinical professor at the University of British Columbia, upended that framework. Her research revealed that for the majority of women, especially women over 40, desire does not precede arousal, it follows it. A woman does not typically begin an encounter thinking, "I want this." She begins thinking, "I might want," inside her, still as a stone, waiting for her to signal readiness. And to Linda, that stillness felt like pressure, like a held breath, like the pause before a starting gun. What James learned was the difference between waiting and attending. Waiting is passive, attending is active. He started using his hands not to progress, but to communicate. He learned to match her breathing before he touched her. He learned to speak in a register that vibrated in her chest, not just her ears. He learned that the most arousing thing a man can do is to be so completely unhurried that her nervous system has time to shift from vigilance into receptivity. Not because he read it in a book, but because at 64, he finally understood that his presence was the technique. And here is what stunned him. Linda did not need more time. She needed more evidence that the time would not be taken from her, that she would not be rushed, that her arousal, which takes an average of 15 to 20 minutes to fully engage the parasympathetic nervous system, would be treated as wisdom, not inconvenience. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something. Think about the last time you were truly intimate with someone, not just physically, but present. Did you feel like you were performing, or did you feel like you were witnessing? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to know if this distinction lands for you the way it landed for James. Because here is the mistake even emotionally intelligent men make. They hear "go slow" and they turn into statues. They remove all initiative. They wait for her to direct traffic. But that is not what women mean when they say they want patience. They want attended patience. The kind where you are still leading, but your leadership is measured in millimeters, not miles. You are still touching, but your touch asks, "Is this welcome?" instead of declaring, "This is next." There's a concept in neuroscience called co-regulation. When two nervous systems are in proximity, the calmer system anchors the other. If you are internally rushing, even silently, her body knows it. Your heart rate transmits it. Your muscle tension transmits it. Your micro-expressions transmit it. But if you are genuinely unhurried, if you have nowhere else to be and nothing else to prove, her body begins to borrow your calm. Her breathing deepens, her skin becomes more responsive, her brain shifts out of threat detection and into connection. That is not poetry. That is polyvagal theory. That is the science of safety. So, how do you actually do this? Not in theory, but tonight. 3 shifts. First, redefine the starting line. Most men think intimacy begins when clothes come off. Start when the door closes. Start with the way you look at her across the dinner table. Start with the conversation that has no destination. You are building context, and context is what activates her accelerator. Second, touch without escalating. This is the hardest one. Touch her shoulder, her wrist, her jaw with no intention of moving toward more, just contact for the sake of contact. Your ability to touch without grasping tells her nervous system that she is not being hunted, she is being cherished. And that distinction is everything. Third, and this is the one that changes everything, replace the goal of performance with the goal of attunement. Instead of asking yourself, "Am I doing this right?" ask yourself, "Is she still with me?" That one question, asked internally every 90 seconds, will make you the most present lover she has ever had. Because at 50, 60, 70, your greatest sexual asset is not the body you have, it's the attention you bring. If you're getting value from this, hit the subscribe button. This channel is built specifically for men navigating relationships after 50, and I cover the things nobody else is talking about with the scientific depth you deserve. Turn on notifications because the next video is going to dismantle another myth about older men and attraction that is costing you connection you don't even know you're missing. Let me leave you with this. The 87% were not describing a technique, they were describing a feeling. The feeling of being with a man who has outgrown the need to prove himself, a man whose confidence is so quiet, so settled that he can afford to wait. That is the hidden gift of your 50s and beyond. You are no longer racing against a clock. You are no longer performing for an imaginary scorecard. You have lived long enough to know that the best things, the things worth having, require a patience that younger men have not yet suffered enough to learn. She does not want you to be 20 again. She wants you to be here, fully, slowly, irrevocably present. So, here is my question for you before you go. What is one area of your life where slowing down has actually made you more effective? Not just in the bedroom, but anywhere. I want to hear your story in the comments. The best insights always come from this community, and I'll be down there responding. Thank you for staying until the end. If this resonated, hit it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, after 50, you're not declining, you're just finally learning the speed at which real connection actually happens. I'll see you in the next video.